Hello everyone, you're listening to Turning the Page with Jer
and Joe.
And we are going to be sharing life experiences in hopes to give you encouragement, inspiration, maybe some different outlooks on life and how to get through those obstacles that you might be facing.
Yes, we hope to be entertaining and sharing our life stories that maybe you can also relate to.
We're going to have some fun as we do this. As my wife always says, we might cry, we're going to laugh, we're going to have some really good times. But you're also going to be able to relate to our lives and some of the things that we've gone through.
Yes, and our goal is to be transparent and raw with all of y'all. So, turn your volume up and let's get started.
Let's go.
Hi, baby.
Hi, baby.
Are you in a better mood?
Yes, today has been interesting. We are trying out a different production
setup
that we typically do. Production setup that we typically do. But, yeah, it's not working like I want it to.
Yeah,
but,
you can't see it, but we can see it.
Yeah. But hopefully this all works out good. We shouldn't have too many issues, so.
Well, welcome to Season 2.
Yes, we're here. It was nice taking a little bit of a break.
1 week is hardly a break, but I'll take it.
Yeah, but typically when we're doing it week to week, we're like constantly working on stuff, like working on thumbnails or working on what we're going to talk about or working on editing or working on making clips or so. It's a bunch of stuff. We didn't have to do any of that this last time.
I know, and that's most of the stuff that you do because I just do the posting. You create the stuff.
Well,
my little marketing guru.
You had a little break from posting, at least.
I needed that break too.
Yeah. You've been busy, so you started a new job.
I did.
And
that's why I needed the break.
Yes.
So it was my first week last week, and it's going good. I love it
awesome.
So far.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, should we jump right in? Get into it?
Yes, Season 2, all about familia.
Yes. So we did our first season on relationship, talking about marriage, talking about relationship with each other, things that we go through.
Dating.
Yeah, and I think we got to jump in pretty deep in some areas, and for most part, we were pretty vulnerable in what we shared.
Yeah, there's some topics we could have dived in, even deeper, but
yeah.
For now, we'll move on to the next subject.
We'll see. Okay. Well, we're back, guys. So we wanted to talk a little bit about family and, I guess, family dynamic.
Yeah, we can talk about whatever you want, baby. Well,
I'm going to let you start.
Why? Why me?
This is Season 2, the first episode of Season 2. So I want to see what you have in mind.
Oh, my
and let's go from there.
Gracious. Well, what do you think about when you think of family?
There's a lot of parts to it.
Oh, yeah?
It could be healthy, it could be unhealthy, it could be functional, it could be dysfunctional. Okay. It could be, you know how they say that saying family is family, but you could choose like your friends or
I have no idea what saying.
Maybe I'm a little bit off on it, but
what do you mean?
You can't choose your family, but you can choose your friend.
That one I understand. Okay, thanks, babe. Yeah, that's true. You are born into your family. You don't get to pick them, and hopefully you get a good one.
Yeah.
So that's what you.
I guess I can talk a little bit about what are we going to go back in like upbringing or
whatever you want.
So, I'm the only child in my family. I never had siblings. I never had brothers or sisters. It's something that I've always kind of wondered, I guess, am I ever going to have brothers or sisters? And I never did. My parents like stopped at me. So I wonder if it was like they had me and they were like, no more.
I don't think that was the case.
But I think that we have, of course, different upbringings, different styles. So when I was growing up, of course, a lot of people said, "Oh, you're so spoiled. You're spoiled." And
because you're an only child, that
because I was an only child, I was automatically categorized as a spoiled, right? But I really wasn't. Like, in a sense, I guess I was, because I didn't. I was, but I wasn't. Like, I didn't get everything that I wanted when I wanted, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had to do stuff. I had to do chores. I had to work when I was younger. So, like, my parents, I remember they got me, like, a Nintendo and stuff, and I had that. But that was more like my child sitting thing. So, like, while they were working, they worked from home. Like, they had a business right behind our house. So, they're working. I would be playing Super Mario Brothers or Mike Tyson Knockout and stuff. But I always had, like, cousins and friends that we grew up with that were close, like family.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I didn't have, like, brothers and sisters, the family that I grew up with, they were constantly around. So it felt like I had, I guess, like, brothers and sisters. So,
okay.
like, you go outside and play baseball, or you want to go ride bikes. I always had someone to ride bike with, like my cousins.
You were never by yourself.
No, I was never by myself. And then Vanessa, who you're familiar with, like, her and her family just lived right down the street from us. Well, her grandparents did. And they were always, like, around. So I would just walk over to their house and see what they were doing if I was bored and couldn't find anything. So, but I didn't have a lot of, like, childhood things. Like, I would go home, they would go home. So, and then it was just me and my parents and my grandma.
Well, that sounds like a perfect childhood. I mean,
I didn't have to share much. That was
you didn't have to share. I mean, did you guys have any conflict? How did your family resolve conflicts?
I look back at stuff like that, and I don't remember ever seeing that stuff.
Okay, let me ask you.
So
let me reword this question. Did you ever get into arguments with your parents?
Me, no. In my teens, in my older teens, I did, because I was like 15, 16, 17. So I was, like, super stubborn, wanted everything my way, didn't want to, my parents they had built a new business, a building that they were running their business out of, and I just wanted to do what I wanted to do.
And how
so
you
rather
old teen, like 18, 19?
No, I think I was like 16, 17.
Okay. So you're still under
So
18.
like my dad was still, like, they would be doing framing and putting up sheetrock and putting in insulation, and like they paid to get the construction done, like on the building, but they had to do a lot of stuff internally to make it functional,
right.
to make it, that way not everyone's freezing in the winter. So they had to put up, like, insulation and all this stuff. And I remember at that time, like, so my parents would work from the morning till evening, 5 o'clock, 5:30. They would be done, while my dad would then start working on the building. And I was like, I'm done. I'm going. So I was really selfish back then. Like,
most
now
teenagers
knowing about
are.
it, yeah. But thinking back on it now, I was like, man, I should have been helping, and I should have been doing that. Because not only would I have been helping him, but I would also have been learning crafts, like things that I could know now, and how to do things and how to do stuff.
Yeah, I would have loved to have you do stuff like that around the house. That would have been awesome.
Yes.
Never too late to learn.
I know. I know. But yeah, that was kind of the thing.
So that was the extent of your relationship with your parents. That's the most you guys have ever argued, was you just being lazy.
With my dad, I used to argue with him a lot because I was just stubborn. I was like,
and it's always about work.
And it was always about work. It was about, you need to do this, and I was always, I know.
Oh, those two words.
I know how to do it. Well, if you do it right. I know. I know. Exactly. But at that time, you get into these places where you just want to do what you want to do. And unfortunately, I was in that spot.
You never argued with your mom?
I don't remember ever arguing with her.
Wow. What a blessing.
No. Yeah. I mean, being raised in church and being raised the way we were always taught, to respect your parents and honor your mom and dad. And I was always taught not to talk back, So if they told me to do something, I'd go to my room and I'd do it. But I never really ever expressed it to them like, I hate this and I don't want to do this or I don't want to do that. If I did do that, I don't remember doing it. But
sounds like I'm going to have a conversation with your parents.
Yeah, that'd probably be good.
You don't remember? Are you just forgetting all the bad stuff?
No,
No. It sounds like you had a really good childhood.
It was a very functional home. So it wasn't like a lot of, because my parents never drank. Literally, I always remember I would go to school, I would come home, I would work. After work, we would go home and relax or have dinner, or we'd go out with friends of my parents and we'd go to their house and eat, or we'd go to restaurants
take trips together.
So we'd do stuff like that, but we were always doing something. Church was every Sunday, every Wednesday, I think. There was always church services. We were always doing stuff like that too. So we were always traveling. Sometimes, we'd travel to Bosque Farms or to Tier C or to Belen or to Magdalena or to other places, and they'd be having church in all these small churches, and a lot of them were Spanish churches. So,
and you grew up not speaking Spanish?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, qué triste. Yeah. What did I just say?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
You do. Let me Google that.
You know what it means. Qué triste.
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
What's it mean?
You don't know triste?
Triste?
Uh-huh.
No.
How sad.
That's sad? That does not sound like sad.
I could have sworn you knew that word.
No.
Okay.
No, my parents spoke Spanish. My grandma spoke Spanish. A lot of people around us spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
But
you never picked it up.
I think maybe they spoke Spanish when they didn't want me to know what they were talking about. But
yeah.
But other than that, no.
You can get by though, if you had to.
Yeah, if I used it more and practiced it, then I'm sure I could do it. Just I don't use it enough and speak it enough, and
true. Just the bad.
I can understand stuff. I can understand things at times. Yeah, that I know.
Like the bad words. Just kidding. Well, that's cool. That sounds like a really nice childhood.
Yeah, I didn't have to
well,
fight.
It doesn't seem like you're spoiled. I mean, being an only child doesn't seem like, as an adult, that you're selfish or spoiled at all.
Yeah, well, that's good.
So your parents did good.
That's good. I don't want to be selfish or spoiled. I had a lot of things when I grew up, and they provided me with stuff that I wanted. I had a 3-wheeler, and I had Nintendo, and I had a dog, and I had a bike, and I had that stuff. But like even in high school, like I had other friends that their parents owned businesses, and like they had everything. They were always wearing newest Jordans that came out. They had jerseys from, everyone in NBA. That was like the big thing back then.
Yeah.
And their cars, they were always driving the newer cars. They were always, they had wheels, they had speakers, like stuff that I wanted to get for my vehicle. My parents did get me a vehicle. Like the first vehicle I got was an older Toyota, a little tiny car. And then they got me a truck, and I drove that for quite a while. And then they got me a new truck. And then once I got the new truck, like I had to start buying stuff. When I wanted rims and tires for it, I had to buy the rims and tires. I had to save it up.
That's good. That's showing you teaching you responsibility.
Then I wanted a jet ski, so I went and bought a jet ski. So I mean, I got paid to work. I would make like $400 or $500 a week, and back then that was a lot of money.
Oh my gosh!
But I would buy my own school clothes. I would buy my stuff like that I wanted, and so
good for you. Well,
interesting.
Let's see. When I think about family, well, the typical answer would be, mom, dad, 2 kids, maybe a dog. That's like the American dream, right? The American family. But of course, we live in a society that family looks different for everyone. There's not one perfect family. Yeah. And so, some families have more than one kid, some only have one, like you, or some are blended, right? Because parents are divorced and then they marry someone with kids. Now you're blending your family. Some adopt and they have adopted children. Like every family is different. So when I think about family, I never assume because I meet somebody, I never assume how their family dynamic is because it's always different. But for me, I'm the oldest of six siblings, but I only lived with two of the six siblings growing up. And so my mom and dad married, right? They had me and my brother, Michael, and we're 2 years apart. And then they got divorced. My dad remarried and had 3 more kids with his second wife. My mom remarried and had one more child with her second husband. So I grew up with Michael and my mom's second marriage child, Brandon, my brother. So I only have one full brother and 4 half siblings, right? However, I don't really say half siblings because to me, they're my siblings. So they're my brother, they're my sister. Like I don't play this half stuff. Yeah. So I just say my brother, my sister. Plus we all pretty much really look alike. Yeah. Especially like my dad's because we all have the same hair and yeah. Brandon looks a lot like, I think like more like his dad. Out of all my siblings, I would say I look the least like him. But he is, someone I grew up with. We're 10 years apart, me and Brandon. So I think, I was 10 when he was born, right? So even though we're 10 years apart, though, I would say his maturity level is pretty high, so we get along pretty well. But that's how I grew up, was basically in a nuclear family home at first, and then we had a blended family because my mom had remarried, right? And then in the summers when I'd go visit my dad, because me and my brother would go with him in the summertime, maybe Christmas break or some kind of school break, but always in the summer, we would be blended family over there, wherever he was at. Yeah. And so, let's see. Then they both got divorced again. And then it was still blended, but we didn't really like live together, right? So then I was also, part of my childhood lived in a single parent home for a few years, actually, because my mom was single after after she divorced my dad, and then married, blended family. Then she got divorced again and then was single until I graduated high school, I guess. I don't know. I say single because she didn't remarry until she didn't remarry her third husband until after I was already out of the house.
That was after you graduated?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I already had my son then. Like I was in my 20s, I think, when she married David. So, and they're still married, going on 10 plus. I think they just celebrated their 10th wedding anniversary, which is the longest for my mom. So proud of her for that. So it takes a lot to get to 10 years, right?
Yeah, that doesn't come easy.
No. I mean, I haven't never been married 10 years, and I know you haven't.
No, so I was close.
You were close, I know.
Didn't get there.
So yeah, that's, our dynamic was different because I actually did argue with my parents, mostly my mom, and it might be a Mexican culture thing. I don't know. Mexican moms, they are really hard on their daughters more than they are on their sons. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's like, oh, hijos can't do nothing wrong. It's like, oh, mijito, ay, qué lindo. And they're like, oh, like they're precious. And then it's the daughters, they're strict on because, I don't know, because they expect more of us or who knows. But I was also the oldest. So not only was I female, but I was also the oldest. So I feel like I got the worst out of all my siblings because I was the oldest. And I was a girl. So, like once Brandon came, oh gosh, I think my mom threw her old parent book out the window because it was like, okay, I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to do this. It was just like she just treated him so nice. And it was like he got everything and he was the baby. And I'm just like, well, that's different. Okay. I was like, I don't remember getting a cell phone that early. I don't remember. I remember having to work, like I started working since I was 14. Not because I had to, but because I chose to. There was things I wanted. They didn't want to, well, they got me a cell phone when I was 12, when cell phones are starting to come out. I think it was like a Nokia phone. I got a Nokia phone.
Did you get a Razor?
I did have a Razor. I had a Razor. I had a BlackBerry, but my first phone was a Nokia. And I didn't know how the billing worked, and back then nothing was really unlimited. It was like 10 cents per text message. And I racked up the bill like $200 worth of text messages just to and from, right? And man, after that, they took it away. They're like, nope, no phone for you. I was like, well, if anybody would have explained it to me, I feel like I wouldn't have done that. And because it was like free, I think after 5 p.m. or free after 6 or who knows.
Everything completely like dropped off after 5 o'clock. But if you used it during the day.
Exactly. So after that, I had to get my own phone. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to Cricket. Getting me a new phone that I paid for myself. So, I would work first in the summers. And then during school, I started working. I was like an admin assistant during the summer before freshman year. And then after that, I worked at the mall. And I just had these little jobs here where I'd get paid. And that money went to my phone bill and clothes and anything that I wanted. Like my parents still paid like for school lunches and they paid for my necessities and stuff like that. But anything extra that I wanted, I worked for it. Pretty much. Or I asked them. Sometimes I would ask and it just depends. But yeah, that's kind of how mine went. But me and my mom butt heads a lot. I mean, I said some really mean things to her growing up. I feel like almost every teenager tells their parents, I hate you. I use that often. And so far, my child has not told me that, which is kind of nice because he's 14, almost 15. And at this point, I've already said it. I don't know how many times. So, it was just, I don't even know. Honestly, thinking back at it now, because it feels like such a long time ago, because I'm 34 now. Yeah. And it was stuff that, I will tell you, it was stuff that I just blurted out because of my lack of emotional control. I didn't control my emotions very well back then. It's just whatever I felt was like, boom, giving it to you. Yeah. And
whatever you felt, you thought, or
you said I'm just going to say it. Care. Oh, yeah. Like I thought at one point that my parents were selfish because there was things that I wanted to do in school that I couldn't do because they said they couldn't afford it and they couldn't pay for it. And I was like, well, we can do this fundraising. Some of it was fundraising. It was dance. One time it was like I really wanted to do dance again. I did it fresh sophomore year, and then again I wanted to do it junior, but they had doubled it. Instead of $800, it was $1,600 to be in dance. And I was like, oh my gosh, my parents are not going to pay for this. And so, I was willing to try and raise the money through fundraising and all that stuff, but they just was like, no. And I was just kind of discouraged. So I just was like, okay, fine. Yeah. And then a few months later, they buy a boat. I'm like, that could have gone towards my dance. That's nice. But, also as an adult now, I don't know what kind of finances they had. I don't know, what their circumstances were. So, or what they could and could not afford or whatever. But see, for me as a parent now, if my son's like, hey, I want to do this and this is going to cost XYZ, I'm going to be like, okay. I was like, because I personally don't want money to be a reason why my son can't do something.
Yeah.
If I can't afford it, I will make a way. I will find a way. I'm a hustler. I will do it. But at the same time, I'm like, well, does he have the grades? Does he deserve to do this? Has he been respectful? Has he done all his chores? Is he that student, that son that I can be like, yes, I can pay this for you because you have shown me that you're responsible. Yeah. You know, all that stuff takes into play too, right? So anyways, that's a little story about my upbringing is how it wasn't quite, I feel like quite as easy for you, like, or for me as it was for you.
Yeah.
Because, you know.
Yeah, it was completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a blended family. I had, you know, a lot thrown my way, basically. But I also saw alcoholism. You know, there was a point where my parents, and when I say my parents, I don't say my dad because I didn't really grow up with him. You know, they divorced when I was like 6 or 7. And then I only saw him in the summers. So when I say my parents, it's going to be like my mom and stepdad. Because that was I feel like most of my upbringing that I really remember the most. Because I feel like there's anything that dates before the age of 5, I don't really quite remember very much, to be honest. Like there's a few things like if we go back to when my mom and my dad were married, my dad was very strict. I remember him being strict. I mean, he spanked us. I don't know if you've ever gotten spanked. Did your parents spank you?
Yeah.
So I remember one time I stole a piece of candy from Old Town, one of the Old Town shops. And it was like, you know, those bracelets that are candies.
Oh, yeah.
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 It was like 50 cents back then. And my dad said no. And I was like, I begged probably. He was like, no. And so I stole it. It was the first time I ever stole something. And I put it in my boot because I was wearing cowgirl boots. And it was itching and it was in the car and I was trying to like scratch. I was like, dang it.
All plastic making noise.
Well, my aunt who was living with us at the time, I believe I was 6. She was, I don't know, she was still in high school. I think she was like a junior in high school. But she was living with us, my mom's sister, and she ratted me out and told them she has something in her boot. They made me take it out. My dad was so pissed. He's like, I told you no. And why did you take it? Oh, I had a big old yelling at me. We get home. He gets the belt. And I knew it was coming. And
probably cut that portion out.
Yeah, you are.
Why.
So, yeah, so that day he got the belt and started hitting me with the belt. And at that time we lived in a townhome, so we had stairs, and I'm over here running up the stairs trying to go to my room, and he's just with the belt like this, like all the way up the stairs. I got it. Oh my gosh, I never ever ever ever
stole again.
Well,
No.
Okay, actually I did one other time later, but I was a teenager and my mom wasn't with my dad anymore, so but yeah, so after that, though, I was like, dang, I felt so bad. But yeah, that is what I remember from, like, I remember my dad being really strict on us. And then now when I see him with, like, my siblings with his second marriage, I don't see him as strict. So what I'm telling you is, like, I'm the oldest, and I feel like I got the brunt of it all because they were new parents. They didn't know how to be parents. I mean, nobody really knows how to be.
Yeah, your first child.
You're still learning, right?
Experiment.
So I was a guinea pig. I'll take it. But so yeah, that's my upbringing with my mom and dad up until the age of 6. It was, from what I remember, very strict. Me and my brother Michael, from what I remember, were close, right? We were 2 years apart. We played together. We fought too, but I remember playing hot lava with him. I remember, just being outside and roller skating and biking back when it was safe.
Yeah.
And we'd come home when it started to get dark, And there was no GPS tracker. There was no call me, text me. Nope, just come home before dinner. We lived
Get home before the dark lights are on.
Yeah, we lived near 3 different parks. Yeah. One of them was 4 blocks away, and the one was 1 block away, and one was 2 blocks away.
That's the same place your mom lives now?
Yep, the same place my mom lives now. I had lived there since 1996. I think that's since first grade.
Wow.
I know.
So when you think back of like the discipline part, so I know like coming back into our lives and where we're at now, we probably see discipline different than what it was 30 years ago, right?
Soft. People are soft now.
But when you look at that, with the discipline that you got, did you feel that it was more geared towards, okay, we need to do this to raise her right and get her to understand? Or do you feel it came like from a place of anger, just I'm mad at you and I'm going to beat your butt right now?
No, actually, I don't think it was ever, with my dad, I don't think it was ever from a place of anger at all.
Yeah.
Even when my mom remarried, I still got spanked by my stepdad. Okay. I deserved it. I mean, every time I got spanked, I knew I deserved it. I think I probably stopped getting spanked by the age of 12 or 13 or something like that. But no, I felt like it was always from a place of love, like, and correction, right? The Bible talks about not sparing the rod. Well, they sure believed that. So that's what happened. And I actually spanked Carter when he was younger, and his dad too. Now he's 14. We don't really do that. Or I can't speak for his dad. I doubt it, but
he's at a place where he understands differently. I mean, and doesn't do things to be like bluntly disrespectful and stuff like that. Yeah. So you could understand that. So
I will say there was when my mom, because she rarely did the spanking, but she also did discipline. And I do remember one time she disciplined me early in the morning. My mom worked really early back then. And I think I was probably 7, maybe 8. I don't remember. But we had to go early, like before school care, because she went in so early. And so she would drop us off at the YMCA back then, really early, like 6:30. And me and my brother, we would wake up. At this point, we were sharing a room still. And so I was very responsible. I woke up by myself. I got ready by myself. I got breakfast by myself. I started doing dishes at the age of 6, okay, with a stool. Like, I have always been very independent. And so anyway, so I was getting up, and I was, probably trying to get my brother up, and my brother was being so annoying that day. And I don't know what he was doing. He was making some sound, some annoying sound. And I was just like, stop making that sound, and whatever. And he wouldn't stop. And so I would yell and I'd get louder because he wouldn't stop. And my mom is in the bathroom doing her hair, and she's mad because I'm yelling. And she comes and beats me for it, even though I didn't do anything. Okay. And she tells us to stop first, but then we wouldn't. And I was like, well, he's doing this. And nope, I got hit with a wooden brush that morning. Not even a hand or a belt, a wooden brush. Do you know how heavy or how hard a wooden brush is? I mean, it was like, it hurt. It was like on my shoulder and and I'm just like, I'm like blocking myself. And anyways, that was the only time that I got disciplined that I felt like it was out of frustration and anger and not out of love and correction. And it had nothing to do with me. And I found out later, because that was also the first time that my mom ever apologized for something to me. Because she picked us up from after school care from the YMCA, and she apologized to me for doing that. And I know my stepdad had a lot to do with that because the dynamic kind of shifted when my mom married him, because she's always really hard on me, but he was a soft disciplinarian. So even though he would discipline, it was out of love. It was soft. It was, he stuck up for me a lot of times when my mom was really frustrated and didn't know how to handle her own emotions, because my mom, I learned now as an adult that she had a hard time channeling her emotions, and they would just come out, and she didn't know how to handle them.
Yeah.
And so since she didn't know how to handle them, well, hello, she can't teach me how to handle mine. So then I had to navigate life and learn that on my own, right? And so I learned that later in life, later when I'm an adult. But that day was the only day that I remember, hey, and it was some adult issue, I'm sure, something that she was dealing with. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't because of me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how my upbringing kind of went a lot of times. But I will say during my mom married my stepdad. I think probably when I was 8, they got married, like 3rd grade, somewhere around there. And then when I was a sophomore in high school, they divorced. So I don't know, how many years is that? Like 7 years, something like that.
Yeah, about 7 years.
So during those 7 years, me and my stepdad, I feel like we got really close, right? I saw him as a father figure in the home. It took me a while to get there. I would say probably, I don't know, maybe like a year, like to get used to a new man in the house. And like, every child is different. But he really showed me the love of a father. And he was somebody that really had a control over his emotions. He wasn't perfect, because him and my mom did go through like a drinking phase too, where they would party and drink. And so we saw all of that. I saw them drunk a few times. And so, our household went from going to church all the time, because I grew up in church too, going to church all the time to, okay, we're going to not go to church anymore. We're going to party and drink. And then, we'd go to church again a couple times, and then, you know what I mean? And then it wasn't until high school that I made the decision for myself that I was like, I'm going to church without them. I joined Bible club, and I found my own church I wanted to be a part of. And my mom at one point didn't believe me that I was going to church, because I was going like Tuesdays and Bible study at 228, and then I was going 228 was the name of the Bible study, and then I would go also on Sunday, and so me and my brother started going to that when I started driving. And she's like, are you sure you're going to church? I was like, yes, do you want to come? And she's just didn't believe us at one point. It was funny. So
That's crazy.
I know,
That's fun.
It's crazy.
Interesting.
Huh?
It's interesting.
Did you know all that? I know you knew some of it.
I knew some of it, but I didn't know a lot of the details on it. But it's interesting how when you're being raised, and how your upbringing is, and the reason why I asked you is because I've had friends of mine and seen people that when they were being disciplined, it wasn't out of love at all. There was like no love. It was basically, I hate you, I'm upset at you. You shouldn't be, and they would beat them and hit them with hangers and hit them with sticks, and it was whatever was close, But it makes a big difference on how, I think, is when we get older, how we see ourselves, but also how other people see us. Or one of the big things that we learn now and that we start to experience is how God sees us. Because if our parents discipline you in a certain way to where it's just to, bring pain on you, then we kind of project that towards God sometimes and think that he's going to do that to us. And that's not the case. That's not what he decides to do, and that's not what
Yeah.
that's not how he loves us or how he shows his love for us. But I know a lot of times those relationships with that child and that parent can just like completely just fall apart, where like they don't get along with their dad because that's all they did was beat them, and they get along with their mom because they were loving and caring. And then there's other ones that they didn't get along with their mom at all because they were constantly fighting and at each other's throats. It seemed like. But
going back to like physically disciplining your child, like with Carter. So this is something that I feel like if you're going to spank your child, they should know why they're being spanked.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And I feel like sometimes it was unclear. And so whenever I would spank Carter, before I even spanked him, I would say, I'm spanking you because of XYZ.
Yeah.
This is why. Because you didn't do what you were told, or because you did this or whatever. Yeah. And I would spank. Some parents are like just one, or some will do just 3 strikes and then, but I feel like after 3 you're good. Like you don't need to keep on going,
Absolutely.
And then give them time alone in their room. I'm going to leave and give you time to think about what you did, and I will be back. And then give them some time to cool off. You go back. And then you go back and be like, do you understand why I did this?
Yeah.
I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing this because I love you and I need you to understand. And, just be loving towards them and tell them and explain it. Because a lot of times parents don't do that. They miss the after part. Yep. It's like, okay, I'm going to spank you. And then guess what happens?
Leave the kid in the room until
and then guess what happens?
They decide to come out on their own.
When they come out on their own, they act like nothing happened. Yep. That is what happened with me. I was like, okay, I got spanked. I know why I got spanked. But then it's like nothing happened and it's like back to normal. I personally can't do that. So I would always try to have a conversation about it with Carter. He probably doesn't remember because I really didn't spank him that much. Yeah. He actually was a pretty good kid and still is.
Yeah, very respectful.
The few times that I did, I would be like, okay, well, how do you feel? Are you okay? Like, I'm just telling you I love you and this is why I did it. And, just having that conversation after the fact.
Yeah.
And then I would always, of course, hug and kiss. And then, like the Full House people always do. Hug it out.
Hug it out.
So, yeah. And then that's it. I feel like that is the missing part when it comes to disciplining.
Yeah. I think, it's interesting. Like there's just so many dynamics that happen to different families. Mm-hmm. Like I can remember people that I grew up close to where their dad was never around and their mom was, but like she had to do everything. She had to like take care of everything. Mm-hmm. And, good thing there were like other people around and stuff. But then you seen the other families where there was alcohol involved, there was drugs involved. And then those kids went on to start doing the same drugs and getting into alcohol and stuff. And my parents never drank when I was young. I mean, I never ever have ever seen my parents around alcohol at any time. I remember one time in my teens, my parents used to travel a lot. They used to go to Las Vegas for SEMA shows, and they would have like these events for their businesses and stuff. So they would go out there and they would have a weekend or a week long of, finding stuff out and being out there and experiencing this. But what we would end up doing is they would come back like on a Saturday or on a Sunday, but they would leave like on a Thursday. Well, one time Andre came over and he decided to bring a couple beers, and he drank a couple beers there at the house, and we hung out, and there were some of his friends that he had and stuff. We didn't have a party or anything. He had came and brought like his stuff, but he threw it in the trash.
Yeah.
I didn't think anything of it. I wasn't like, oh, I better go out and grab this and hide this because my parents are going to think it's me, right? But
how old were you at this time?
Oh man, I think I must have been like 16, 17.
Wow, okay. They got
so
mad.
I was older. Yeah. So my parents get home and they come from their trip, and I guess my dad went to pull the trash out and throw it, and he saw some beer and some stuff in there, and oh my gosh. Right away he's all, Jeremy, what is this? Who's this? What did you do? What's going on? I'm like, that's not mine. And of course I'm the only one staying home, and Andre used to live in Albuquerque, so
yeah.
um
You
but I was like, yeah, the Andre came. He came by the house, and he asked if he could throw them in the trash. He drank like one or two while he was here, and he threw it in the trash, and that was it.
And
I left it at that. I didn't hear anything back from it, so I assumed they did because I didn't get in trouble for it.
Oh, good.
But yeah, like alcohol was never around our family and stuff. Like if I'd go to other families, like uncles, aunts, and stuff, sometimes I go to their homes, then they would be drinking. They would be, having. I remember going a couple times, and they were having parties and stuff, and all the kids would play outside and do their thing, and then go inside and go to bed. But you still hear music and everything in the background and stuff. But I wasn't raised around that, so I didn't experience that, in my life. So I guess in my life I never leaned towards that or chased that.
Yeah.
So I didn't ever feel like I had to or a reason to,
That's good.
And
because you don't want to struggle with alcohol. I mean, because I used to struggle with alcohol, and alcoholism runs like from my dad's side. My grandma drank a lot, like it just, and then my mom's side. So, and then I saw my parents. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Glad I don't have that struggle anymore.
So, yeah, I alcohol had never been a thing that I'd like been drawn to or would run to. I even told you in my teens, like when I would go to parties or go hang out with friends and stuff, I'd go get an empty beer bottle, or I'd find someone that was drinking and say, hey, let me have your bottle. And they're like, what? Yeah, let me have your bottle. So I'd go get it. I'd rinse it out. I'd put water in it, shake it, clean it, shake it, clean it.
And they just thought you were drinking?
And they thought I was drinking. So I'd put apple juice or whatever.
Nobody would catch on.
Because no one would drink.
Hilarious.
The only time that I ever questioned, how they used to come by and used to top everyone's beers, like they would go and hit the top of their bottle and it would all foam up.
No, I never.
Mine
did that.
never foamed up.
I never.
So I would be oh.
Why would you do that?
Because I hated the taste of beer, of alcohol.
You still don't drink beer.
I don't. I've never liked it. Like wine, I never got into until just recently. Like, God, it's less than 10 years ago. I'm 46.
Yeah, it wasn't until like your late 30s that you
maybe like 38, 39, where one time we were in Arizona and I was like, I want a glass of wine. I want to drink some wine with my pizza. And so I got a glass of wine, didn't know anything about it. I was like, give me that one. And
what kind of wine was it?
It was a Cab.
And you liked the Cab for
your
first?
I did. I don't know why.
Most people start off with Moscato.
I know. I did. And then I tried Moscato after that, and I liked it. Then the Riesling, and then there was that Membres where it was real sweet. But
interesting.
Other than that, yeah. But I've never taken it to a point to where I abuse it. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't go and drink, a glass of wine and then be like, oh, I'm going to do the whole bottle. Oh, let's do more and more and more. So I would just drink my glass of wine and that was it. And I had a couple and, if I did start to get to the point where I felt it or I was like, oh, okay, I can feel something going on. I feel tingly in my head I used to say my face feels heavy and I would stop. I'd be like, I'm done. And everyone would be like, have another one. Nope, I'm done.
How do you know your face feels heavy?
Because it feels heavy.
Okay.
And I like being in control, so I don't want to get that control up.
Of course. Interesting.
Yeah.
Family dynamics.
Yeah, and I got in trouble growing up a couple times. There's some stupid things that I did. I remember one time I think it was 4th of July. I must have only been like 13, 14. I was young. Wasn't driving. Didn't have a car. We wanted to go to the park because they were going to be doing fireworks and all that stuff. So went. And after it was done, there was a guy that my parents knew. He was in high school. I was still in junior high. And remember lowriders back then? Like, it wasn't the lowriders we know now, but it was like they would convert your trucks into like these whole speaker systems. And they would have speakers throughout the whole back end. And then everyone used to paint their trucks like hot pink and all these other colors. And it was dropped down. It looked really cool. And they'd put all kinds of stuff. Well, there was a bunch of those in town at that time. Okay. And one of the guys that had like the coolest one, we were like, oh, I would love to ride in that. And we were getting ready to walk to the place where, I don't know, someone I think was supposed to bring us home. Mm-hmm. But we didn't go with them. We went with the guy that had the truck because it was cool. Like, man, yeah, this guy's bass speakers in the back. And as a 6th grader or 8th grader, 7th grader, you're thinking, I'm going to be in there with all these bass speakers and my brain's going to be vibrating. So they gave us a ride from the park. We went for a couple cruises through town. And then they took us to to my parents and dropped us off. And I remember my dad was so mad.
Really? Why?
Because I didn't come home with the people that I was supposed to. I was supposed to let them know, and I guess I didn't let them know. And
well, yeah.
They must have been like, we don't know where Jeremy's at. And then all of a sudden I come home with boom, 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 boom.
They were probably worried sick.
Probably. So we got out and I was like, it's him, you know him, I got spanked.
Yeah, but night. They didn't know where you were at. I think that was the main point.
Probably. I didn't think about all that stuff. That wasn't on my mind.
Of course not.
And then I told you the one time my parents were in Laughlin, Nevada, I think. They went on vacation, and my cousin and I went to...
Oh, my gosh, yes. And you stole.
We went to a place called Alco in Belen. It was a little shopping center. And I, for some reason, wanted to... I had money. I had cash in my wallet. I had everything that I needed. But my cousin that I was with, we used to steal, like, little things. He would steal candy from a grocery store or little places like that. And it started to become like a challenge. Oh, let's see what I can get away with now. Let's see if I can steal this and get away with it. So we had went, and they used to sell the singles, right? You used to be able to buy a cassette tape, and it would have like one song on the A side and one song on B side. And it was like a $4 tape.
That you could have paid for.
That I could easily paid for. Go in and give him $5 and paid for it. And I ended up sticking it in my pocket, and we were getting ready to walk out the front doors, and the guy steps out, and he's like, stop. I remember my heart.
And then, did he search you?
Yeah, they took us in a little back room, and they're like, we know that you took a tape. We know you put it in your pocket, this and that. We've called the cops. They're on their way. And I was driving at that time. I was like 16, 17. I was still
Did you give him the tape back?
Yeah, of course.
And then?
Then I went to jail.
And your parents had to leave their vacation in Laughlin?
No, so my mom's aunt and uncle that they were with, their son was in Belen, lived in Socorro, Limitar. But he had to drive all the way to Belen, go to the police station, I guess bail me out or do whatever they did back then. I never remember anything ever else happening of it. I think it was since I was so young.
Just
it was
dropped first.
It was just that thing to like scare the crap out of you, and once you
you didn't really go to jail till you were in your 20s, huh?
Yeah.
When you ran that whole pod.
I did. ran that whole pod. But
I just can't get over that.
I know. And you don't believe me. You think I'm some Lucy.
Oh my gosh. If you guys haven't listened to our season 1 podcast, just go. There's one episode where he talks about how he ran that whole pod. But it's like his facial expression when he says it. It just gets me every time.
So yeah, I did some stupid stuff, but I think after that I did learn. I was like, you know what? There's no reason to do that.
Okay, and we're back. Mm-hmm. But that's part of growing up, and being a kid is you do dumb stuff and you learn from it.
Yeah.
Hopefully not stuff that's too illegal or too dangerous that's going to affect your life forever, right? But it's just part of growing up.
Yeah.
Like when Carter talks about
stuff,
stuff that I don't want to know about, mostly girl stuff and, like just his thought process on certain things. I get all, me, I get all worked up. I'm like, no, he did not just say that. And I'm like, what? But then I think back, like, oh, how was I at that age? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was worse. So, okay, go ahead.
You're good. But isn't it's interesting when we look back now, like the things that we've gone through and the trials that we've overcome and the stupid things that we've done and, even through like discipline and all that stuff, it makes us who we are today.
It does.
So a lot of times when we as parents, we want to control our children to be who we want them to be.
Yes.
But in reality, we have to allow them to make mistakes. We have to allow them to fail at certain things. We have to allow them to, figure things out on their own and overcome those things without us constantly, you can't do that, you can't do this. And of course, that's our first thing that we want to do. But a lot of times instead of just trusting God, and I think my parents did that. I think that's kind of why I'm referring back to it, because there were some things in my teens that I remember doing and like going through and stuff, but I was always kind of told, you make your decisions, you're going to live with the consequences. If you do this, these are the consequences. If you do this, these are the consequences, and it was up to me to decide whether I was going to listen or not listen, or do it or not do it, And, I think the cool thing now is even like with Carter, seeing how he makes decisions in certain areas. Like you direct him, but you're not on him constantly. Like, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to, don't act like that. Don't be this way. Don't do, No, it's if he says something that maybe he said towards a friend, you're like, well, why did you say that? Do you think that was wise to say that? Is that something you would tell a friend? Is that something,
Yeah.
So you bring it to where you make him think about stuff, and I love that.
I try to get him to answer his own questions.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be responsible for him making a decision that he regrets, right? Because he has to live with it. And it's not my job to tell him how to do it or what to do, how to deal with a certain friendship, right? How to deal with a certain relationship he doesn't want, or it's my job to guide him, right? And I think, honestly, when I think back, because my parents, meaning my biological parents, they didn't show me that. I think I learned that part from my stepdad, because he was like I said, the soft, gentle disciplinarian, right? And when he spoke to you, it was more like he would inquire, like, well, why did you think to do that? Or that's how he spoke to us when he would talk to us about stuff like disciplining us or issues that we had. It wasn't like, ay, Angelica, I can't believe you did that, and this is what you should have done, and no. It was more like a conversation, having not grown, but maybe just like a mature conversation with your child, like to see their thought process and how they came about the situation that they're dealing with right now, and just guiding them into how to solve it, right? That was his like MO, I would say, my stepdad. Like, and now that I think of it, because I don't feel like in previous podcasts I had mentioned that my parents were not emotionally there for me.
Yeah.
Meaning my mom and my dad. I don't feel like they were ever emotionally present. It wasn't until my mom married my stepdad that I felt emotionally seen. Sorry. I'm going to take a pause because my eyes are doing something weird. So it wasn't until then that I felt emotionally seen. And that's when I started, I had a hard time channeling my emotions, gosh, until my 30s, really. Yeah. So
dogs are barking.
Yeah, that would be your dog. Maybe I should have let them in, huh? Do you want to go let them in really quick?
No.
I think we're pretty much done.
Yeah.
So anyways, it wasn't until him that's who showed me, I guess, all about emotions or how to control your emotions. Or it was an example, him showing me how he handled his emotions and how he spoke to us and all that. That was an example that I think I didn't realize until actually now. Now that we're talking about it, that I carried on into my parenting.
Kind of like rolled that over, rolled that style over.
But I'm not perfect either, because there have been times that I have yelled at my child and been harsh, but I will say that I'm that parent that will apologize for it later, because I don't want my son to have resentment towards me or think that he can't come to me again or ever. I don't want that. Yeah. And so I try to, if I know I'm wrong, which has been a lot, I'm not gonna lie, I will admit it, and I will go to his room and I'll talk to him, and then we'll have a discussion, we'll hug it out. And then sometimes he'll just be like, oh, well, you're gonna do it again. Well, yeah, I'm not perfect, I'm human. I might, but I will try not to.
Yeah. Well, coming from a teenager, they don't understand the whole dynamic of stuff, but they will. As parents, that's the great thing, is that we do get to acknowledge those areas that we fail in, and get to work on it, and get to better, and get to get to that point to where we know it's going to be effective, more effective than what it is, at that time. But
family dynamics, man, they're tricky sometimes, and for the longest time, because I come from a broken home, I felt like my family sucks because it's broken. Like there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with my family. Like even to this day, when I watch movies about family, anything, oh gosh, I just cry. Like today, when I watched Life Mark, and it was about adoption, right? Oh my gosh. It just does something to my heart watching all those family movies, even like Full House or like Family Matters, like Sister. They all have different family dynamics. Step by Step, that was about step family. Like these are all shows I grew up on that I would watch, and I would be like, man, I wish my family was like that. But now as an adult, I'm like, I do have a good family. Yeah. It might be broken. It might, whatever the case might be, but God did bless me with some good people in my family, and I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it, because it has made me, like you said, it makes us who we are today. Yeah. So
there's different experiences that we would have never had, as with your siblings that live in El Paso. I mean, if your mom and dad would have been together, then that would have never been a thing.
I would have never had a
Brandon
sister.
would have never been a thing, So but I think there's things that we go through in life that a lot of times we see it and we're like, oh, this shouldn't have happened. Even like when I look back, like my parents are still married. They've been married for, gosh, I don't know how long, 40 some years. And, or probably longer than that.
I think longer than that.
Yeah, probably close to like 50 years. I don't know.
They're almost to 50, I think.
Yeah, I think they're getting close to that. But like even with my background with relationships, like I've had failed marriage, and I've had failed relationships, and I've had failed marriage, and coming from that, you wonder, why did I go through that stuff? But without going through those things then, I would never be here now. And right now is like the best time that I've ever had experienced in a relationship. I haven't experienced love in a way that you show it to me. And even with like the things that you've gone through, like you've had to go through a lot of bad things in life at times, but it's made you who you are today.
Yep.
And the way you love me and the way you show love to our family and the way you do things around our home, it's amazing. I can't imagine anything other than that. And I'm glad and thankful for who you are, because you're amazing.
Yeah, I wouldn't I have questioned why I have to go through this. Why did I go through this? Yeah. And why did I have to get divorced? Why did Chris have to die? Why did all this stuff? Of course, we're human. We go through all these things in our mind, but I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be as strong as I am today. I wouldn't be as faithful as I am today. I wouldn't love the way that I do now without going through those things. Because I will tell you, I loved differently before Chris died. And after he passed, oh my gosh, completely different.
Everything changed.
Yes.
Your whole view of life in general.
Pretty much. Which we'll talk about in another episode. Yeah. But anyways, so family dynamics. That was today's topic for today.
Yes. Well, I think we're at an hour and 10 minutes, which we had a little bit of breaks throughout it, but.
So we hope that you decide to stick around for season 2 and watch the next 12 episodes unfold.
Yes. Keep looking in, keep checking in with us. We are going to be doing more episodes every week. And, we're excited for you guys to jump in on our conversations. Let us know if you guys have any feedback, if you have any suggestions about anything. We're always, if you have a topic that you want us to talk about or something that maybe is on your mind, share it with us. And we'd love to hear what you have and go through there. So
yes. And don't forget to like and subscribe to all of our social media platforms and YouTube.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you for turning the page with Jer
and Jel.
And we will see you again soon.